Hey, what's going on? This is DK Smith. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we are going to talk about how do venture funds actually make money and what are venture funds, right? Because a lot of people lately have been asking me, hey, how should I spend my money? Where should I invest this money? Or do you know any venture capital funds or private equity funds or all this stuff? So I'm going to just kind of break it down for we'll start with what a venture fund is. It's known as like a venture capital fund. Most people call it that, venture capital, what that means. So a venture capital fund is essentially a group of people that pull together money and invest in startups, right? And usually they take a fee for that, which is 20% of all the upside gain. Now, the venture capital model is, for every 10 startups they invest in, they just need one to do really, really well, and they kind of expect the other 9 to not turn a profit. Right? So that's the model, right? And so if you think about it, the more startups you have, the better if you can pick them right, because you're picking on one big horse, big pony, whatever, right? One big main star is going to really take off and exit, because that's how you make your money. You make your money on the exit. Now, these venture capital funds typically last each one around about 8 to 10 years, and then you may ask, okay, how do you exit, right? How does a startup exit? Right? And we can go on another video, get into how do you go from idea to MVP to a solid product to Series A funding from a venture capital fund to growth and expansion, and then exit. Right? That's a different topic. Right now we'll skip straight to the exit piece of it. Now there's typically two ways a startup can exit from a venture capital fund. Number one, you can IPO. And number two, you get bought out by a bigger company. Now that company could be a private equity company, another venture capital fund, or but it's typically a larger tech company if we're talking about technology, which most VCs invest in. So those are the two ways that startups and venture funds exit, and how venture funds actually make money. Now, if you've been paying attention recently in the news, you've noticed that there's something called the DOJ, which is the Department of Justice in America, and they have a little department called the Antitrust Department, right? And that prevents monopolies from happening in America, right? Because you don't want a monopoly, because then they control the prices, they get too big, and everyone depends on them, and they get too powerful. The government doesn't like that, right? So they have a team of lawyers, some of the smartest lawyers in the country. Some of my friends are probably on that team. I know that I have a couple of friends that work at the DOJ. So what's up if you're listening to this? So their whole job is to figure out, okay, how can we make companies that are too big smaller, and are they even too big to begin with, right? So I don't know if you all have heard the term, of FANGs, F-A-A-N-G. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, right? The FANG companies. Most of those companies are under scrutiny right now by the DOJ, right? And you're probably thinking of, okay, where the hell is he going with this? Why are we even talking about FANG? We were talking about venture capital. What's going on? Let me tell you. Remember when I said that you have two ways to exit, right? If you're a startup in a venture capital fund, either through an IPO or you get bought by a bigger company. Those FANG companies, they are the ones doing a lot of the buying. So you can go and guys can Google and figure out how many companies. I don't know off the top of my head how many companies they actually bought, but suffice it to say, I can pretty much guarantee in the last 5 to 7 years, those FANG companies are responsible for hundreds of deals. They've bought hundreds of companies. And so, again, where am I going with this? Let's go way back to 2001, right? Well, really go to 98, when there was a little company called Microsoft, right? And they were the biggest, hottest new tech thing, and everyone had on Microsoft, and everyone's going crazy for Microsoft. Microsoft's growth was explosive. And then the DOJ said, no, y'all getting a little too big, let's tone it down. We're going to investigate you. And what happened with the investigation? Microsoft had to divert a ton of its time, resources, and energy away from producing and acquiring companies producing products and acquiring companies to defending itself, from being broken up into a couple, probably a dozen pieces. Just like they did, AT&T or Bell, whatever it's called, 50, 60, 70 years ago, the phone companies in America. So why is this important? Why are we talking about Microsoft? Why are we talking about 2001, 1998, whatever? Because, as I mentioned, Microsoft had to divert its time, energy, and money from creating and producing and acquiring smaller startups, right, into defending, which paved the way for companies like Google and Apple to steal market share from Microsoft. Now back then, this was before Google was Google, before Apple was Apple. They were just, small companies. They had some cool products and whatever, but they were just like tiny thoughts. If the DOJ did not intervene when it did, Apple and Google may have been acquired by Microsoft, and there wouldn't be an Apple or Google we see today. So yes, long term it's good, but short term, depending on what side you're on, it could be not so good. And again, why is this important? Because if the world we're living in now, the Google is now, what Amazon was in 2001 and in 1998, right? They were a huge company, as is Facebook, as is Amazon. Netflix is getting there, and Facebook is getting there, or Apple is getting there. Now, if you started a company 3 to 5 years ago, and if you're a venture capital fund and you invested in companies 3 to 5 years ago, remember I told you one of two ways to exit, right? Either get bought by a bigger company or IPO. Now all of a sudden, one of those lanes has, I don't say it's closed, but it's gotten smaller, because now these FANG companies will have to divert time, energy, and resources from producing and acquiring companies to defending themselves, just like Microsoft. Now stick with me here, stick with me. All right. So if you're a venture capital fund, you're like, oh, well, these companies I invested in 5 years ago, I wanted at least one, two, or three of them to be bought by, a Facebook or an Apple or a Google, or Amazon. But, that's probably not going to happen, because you don't want to be getting investigated for being too big and still acquiring companies getting bigger. It's not really smart to do that. So, this lane has now shrunk, it's gotten smaller. So I hypothesize that we're going to start seeing valuations decrease, because there's not as many competitive bidders out there vying for these companies. All right, so can't do that. What about IPO, right? There's only so many companies that can IPO every year. There's huge SEC costs, and great, and obviously if this is happening, the economy is not going to be the most confident. We have the trade war going on. We got all this stuff going on that's pointing to a recession, or at least a downturn. I don't know if it's going to be a recession, but it's going to be a downturn. You probably don't want to be IPOing into a downturn. So, we have decreased valuations, downturn coming, IPOs, people will be flooding into IPOs. That doesn't really look good for the company that wants to exit, right? So if you don't have that capital that you expected, or the venture capital fund doesn't have the exit they expected, they have to wait another 5 years to exit, or 3 years, we're going to see a lot of people lose a lot of money. And all these investors that were trying to get rich quick, or trying to, invest in a company to get bought out by Google in 18 months, like that's going to slow down. So we're going to see, like in any other downturn, we're going to see the companies that have long-term vision and goals, they're going to win. The investors that have long-term vision and goals, they will prevail over the short-term get-rich-quick, investor or company. Simply because if you're thinking long-term, you're not worried about getting bought by Google in 18 to 24 months, or in 3 years. You're trying to create a company that's sustainable, that probably may never get bought out, all right, if it's that good. Those are the companies that will survive. And I'm going to butcher this quote. There's a quote that I read years ago, and I think it was Howard Marks, or I don't know. Anyway, when the tide recedes, we'll see who's swimming naked, right? That means, when all this cash, all this money, all this confidence exits the market, we will see, just who was over levered, who took too many risks, because now the capital is not there for you to sustain your risky behavior. You got the game, buddy. You out of there. So, again, why does that matter for you? Now, I'm guessing a lot of you listening aren't venture capital fund owners. You may want to invest in a venture capital fund or something, or you may be about to invest yourself into the market or whatever, right? So this is what I think. Now, you please fact check this, Google this and whatever, challenge me, DM me. This is my hypothesis, what I'm about to say. So please come at me. I want to hear what you guys think about this. As I mentioned before, the smart money is going to prevail. The long-term thinking is going to prevail, whether it's in companies or investors. So what you want to do, if you're thinking about investing right now is not the time to invest in the get-rich-quick scheme. That was like maybe 5 years ago, but now, no. Now you have to follow where the long-term thinkers are going. So you follow it. Where are people, who are long-term thinkers investing? The Howard Marks of the world, right? The Buffetts, and his proteges and whatnot. Where are they investing? And then you say, okay, well you can mimic that. Yeah, sure, cool, whatever. But in addition to mimicking that, figure out the exact companies that they're investing in, and do a little bit of homework, right? So if you're investing in some tech, if the long-term thinkers are investing in a tech startup that makes microchips for, the iPhone or some phone, let's just say that the factory's somewhere in Kansas or something. I don't know. But you see a lot of money flooding in there, and they're raising capital. They somehow created a way to make microchips cheaper for Apple. They don't have to outsource to China or whatever, right? Just hypothetical. So all flooding there. Yeah, you can copy and maybe win. I don't know. But where you can win is when you start following that cash flow, start following where that money's going, and you say, okay, it's going to a startup, a tech startup in Kansas. All right. What's around the Kansas area, right? If the money's going there, that means that company is getting ready to grow, right? Because startups are like babies. They need food to grow, and their food is money. So follow where the food's going, and then look around. All right, let's continue with this example. This startups in Texas. They make microchips, all right? They're growing, maybe they're growing more developers. They're growing more. I don't know, they're getting a bigger office, all that. Just think about it, figure out what's going on. And you may not be able to have direct access to invest in that company because they're privately owned. But what you can do is figure out, okay, who's their janitorial service? What cleaning products are they using, right? Where are they eating lunch, right? Where are they living? Where are these employees going to go? What computers are they using? What does the CEO like to do in his free time? What services around this company will they continue to use as they grow? And that's where you want to put your money, because as long as they're growing and they're continuing to use the same services and technology and products, that smart money, that long-term thinking money, is going to go in there and get dispersed out. In the same area. So that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think. Comment. You can hit me up, DM me, follow me. At Mr_DK Smith, Mr_DK Smith. But yeah, that's my. That's how venture capital funds make money. We covered a little bit of history about antitrust and the DOJ and what's going on with Facebook and Amazon and Google right now. And then we figured out, okay, how can you as the individual investor profit from this as we head into a downturn in the near term? Who knows? That near term could be in 5 years. I don't know. But if you're following what's going on and you saw the Fed's lowered rates, that's a sign of some headwinds coming our way. So be prepared for that. what I will say is, this is not the right time to put your money into something that's going to, get rich quick. Don't do that. No. Wait it out. Save up your money right now, and look for these deals. Look around. Look at your surroundings. Look for the companies that are, that's still being invested in as we head into a downturn by smart money, not just anyone, but by the smart money, the long-term thinkers, and figure out why they're doing it, and figure out what services and products they're using, and invest there locally if you can. That's even better. But yeah, so that's it. If you have any questions, hit me up. I love talking about this stuff. So yeah, good luck, happy hunting, happy investing. All right.